Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me for this cooking class. My name is Kate Unitas, and I am the Staff Wellness Coordinator at DCSD, and I'm also a registered dietitian. So something I'm really passionate about is healthy, easy cooking. And that's what I brought you all here for today. I'm really passionate about the fact that if you can find just a couple staple, good, healthy recipes to cook, it makes healthy eating much easier. So today we are making two recipes, egg roll in a bowl and these peanut butter stuffed dates. And these are two of my staple favorite recipes that I make all the time. And if you see my recipes in the newsletters that I send out, I will only recommend things that are tried and true, something that I make myself on the regular. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started. How many of you are cooking with me today? Laura, Brittany, Jennifer. Jennifer, it looks like you've got a little helper there. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for joining, everyone. Well, we're actually going to get started with dessert first so that it can go in the freezer before we get started with dinner, and it'll be ready when we're done. Got to have our dessert after dinner. So you can go ahead and get your dates out. Now, I'm not sure if I said this in the recipe list. I prefer to use dates that have already been pitted just because it's easier. You don't have to pick that seed out, but if yours do have the pits, you'll want to pick them out, and you can see mine are hollowed out. These right here are an amazing source of fiber, and they are a great natural sweetener, similar to honey or coconut sugar or maple syrup. Mine are pitted, but they do not have slits in the middle, so I'm just going to do a small slit in the middle of each of these to get them ready to be stuffed with peanut butter. So it's just going to look like that, so I can kind of open it up and spread its wings. So we're not cutting all the way through. So you can do as many of these as you want. The recipe called for like 25. I'm probably going to do like 10. And I'll keep these in my freezer, and I'll have like one or two as a snack when I'm craving a sweet treat. And they're very satisfying and filling because they're rich in fiber and high in healthy fats, that peanut butter, which is really filling. Proteins and fats create feelings of satiety or fullness in the brain, whereas carbohydrates do not. So this is why if I was to, just eat a bowl of cereal for dinner, I would probably be hungry and want to eat again in 30 minutes. But if I eat a couple of these dates, which are rich in healthy fats, they're much more satisfying and filling while still being a sweet treat. So we're going to cut a slit in as many of these as you want to enjoy. And I'm going to go ahead and put them on something that you can put in the freezer. It doesn't really matter what you put it on. I have mine on a little mini sheet pan. I have foil because I was out of parchment paper, but you can use whatever you prefer. I'm going to tilt this down a little bit so you can see what I'm up to here. Welcome, 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 everyone. We're getting started with dessert if you're just joining. Cheryl. And we're just cutting the slits and the dates for our dessert if you're just jumping in. So these are supposed to kind of taste like Reese's peanut butter cups. And I know a lot of people are afraid of dates because they're kind of raisiny and kind of scary. And, they're dates. They're a little scary looking. But I promise you don't need to be afraid of these. When you try them stuffed with the peanut butter and covered in the chocolate, you are going to be amazed at how delicious and satisfying they are. Something else that's really delicious that has become a popular trend is a date with a little bit of butter in the middle, and then you put like 3 chocolate chips in there and stick it in the microwave for like 10 seconds. It tastes like a chocolate chip cookie. I'm not kidding. It's really good. So if you have extra dates or you want to save some for that, I highly recommend. And it's also a satisfying little snack because it's a little bit of butter, which is also a fat. All right. Now, I've got a good amount of these laid out here. Good enough for me. And the chocolate chips I'm going to use here, you can use any type of dark chocolate chip. There's a couple brands that I prefer to use. This is the Who brand of dark chocolate chips. There's also Lily's dark chocolate chips, these ones are sweetened with coconut sugar. The Lily's are sweetened with stevia. So just like lower to no sugar-free options. These do have a little bit of sugar, but it's only coconut sugar, which is a lower glycemic sugar option. So just a little bit healthier, better for your blood sugar, insulin resistance, preventing diabetes, etc. Welcome, Jill. Welcome, everyone. Lots of people joining in. So I'm going to put some of these chocolate chips in a little bowl that is microwave safe. And, the recipe, how much does it call for? The recipe calls for a cup. I'm probably only going to do a half cup because I'm not doing a ton of these. And quite frankly, the measurements don't really matter that much. It's just enough to cover your dates with chocolate, okay? And then along with that, whatever amount of chocolate chips you do, I'm just going to add a little tablespoon of coconut oil in there, and that is just to help the chocolate chips melt, okay? I've done it without the coconut oil before. It will save you calories, but it makes the chocolate chips burn really quickly, so it doesn't work great. And before I heat that up, I'm going to stuff my dates with my peanut butter. I've got the good stuff here. This is the Whole Foods fresh churned peanut butter. Big thing I want you to look for when you are purchasing peanut butter, read that nutrition label and look at the ingredients. Does your peanut butter have added sugar? Does it have added palm oil? Does it have any other weird added ingredients? Because your peanut butter doesn't need to have anything but peanut butter in it, really. So that's a good thing to be aware of. Oh, there you go. This is literally just churned peanuts. You can make peanut butter at home if you have the right devices. But anyway, moral of the story, lots of peanut butters have a lot of added junk in them. Specifically, my arch nemesis is Jif peanut butter because they put trans fats in their peanut butter, which is partially hydrogenated vegetable oil. It's actually been made illegal because we now know it has negative health side effects. But because it's at less than half of a gram per serving, they are legally still able to put it in their peanut butter. But it's basically just an oil that's really not good for our body, and research has shown that. So anyway, moral of the story, try to find the cleanest peanut butter possible. And, you know, I went and got this at Whole Foods and I looked at the different peanut butter options available. And even the Whole Foods brand, just smooth, creamy peanut butter had added sugar in it, which was surprising to me that their store brand would do that. So always read your labels, be vigilant. There's a lot of products that are what's called greenwashed. And greenwashing basically means that it's advertised or shown to be a healthy item when it just simply isn't, okay? So for example, maybe you see some sort of like Nutri-Grain bars, or an example. If you read the box, they say high fiber, great for cholesterol, great for heart health, blah, 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 blah. If you read the ingredients list, it's a mile long and filled with added sugar. So you really want to do your due diligence as a consumer, because at the end of the day, it's up to you to be aware of what you're putting in your body. So these already smell amazing to me, but we're just getting these guys stuffed with the peanut butter. As much or as little you want to put in there, as much as that will fit, I would say cleanly, as clean as possible. And I actually got some pistachios to sprinkle on top of mine, but usually I don't put anything on top, honestly, when I'm doing these quickly. But you could really do anything you want. Some people like to do peanuts, pistachios, even goji berries I've seen. It's just an opportunity, or cacao nibs. It's really just an opportunity to add a little something else fun on there. So totally preference based. All right, those are looking good. I've got mine ready to roll. And next, I'm going to heat up my chocolate mixture.
Oh, I'm falling behind.
Oh, it's okay. I will fall behind at some point, so it's okay. So chocolate mixture, I'm just going to, oh, and let me show you what my dates look like before I do that. So this is what we're working with. This is what my dates are looking like. They're just stuffed with peanut butter. So we're going to melt the chocolate and then we're going to dip them in the chocolate. So I'm just going to do these for, don't do it too long because you will burn the chocolate. I'm going to watch while I do it. I think it's really great to find different sweet treats that also have benefits for our bodies. Another one of my personal favorite sweet treats is the frozen True Fruit, different frozen chocolate covered fruits. I don't know if any of y'all have heard of those. Have you heard of the True Fruit? They have a bunch of different stuff, but this is what this is looking like. And it looks like I'm going to need another little round in the microwave to get it more melted. But the True Fruit has chocolate covered raspberries that you just keep in the freezer. So good. The raspberries are tart and then the chocolate is sweet. It's amazing. I'm going to do these for another 30 seconds. Now, when it comes to cooking, especially when you're cooking after work, great recipes to look for are one pan meals or sheet pan meals or different like bowl options. Because let's face it, you get home from work, you're tired, you're exhausted. This is how a lot of people end up grabbing something quick or eating out because they don't have the energy to cook. So we have to keep it simple or else you're going to feel too overwhelmed to even deal with it. Okay. So, you know, as a dietitian, Oh, this looks great. Sheet pan meals are my favorite. Yes, they're great. Here we go. So 2 rounds of 30 seconds did it for mine. You know, as a dietitian, I get a lot of questions like, should I eat lunch meat? Should I eat cheese? You know, like these different, like yogurt, stuff like that. And I'm like, ultimately, you need to eat what works for you. You know, is it going to be perfect all the time? No. And I think the goal of trying to be perfect all the time is what hinders people from being successful more than anything else. All right. So the dates are ready to be dipped in chocolate. I'm going to bring you guys a little bit closer here. All right. So I like to stick them on the spoon and dunk them in that way. There we go. And we just do them one at a time. Okay. There we go. Like I said, this is something you just can keep in the freezer at all times and just grab one when you're craving a sweet treat. You know, what I say about sweets too, like a lot of times they're a convenience thing. Like a lot of times we aren't really craving a sweet treat. We're just bored, or we just had a hard day, or we're stressed and looking for a little pick me up. So it's always good to kind of recognize where those hunger signals might be coming from. But also, sometimes you might be thirsty. Maybe you haven't drank any water today, right? That's massive. And you know, drinking water burns calories. I always like to say that. I'm like, just drink more water. You'll burn more calories. That's a good reason to drink more water, I think. How's everyone's dates coming along? Are they looking good? Mine are just about ready. Okay. All right. All of mine are ready. Last step I'm going to do is just add some of these pistachios on top just to make them look extra pretty, because why not? And they're a good healthy fat as well. Nuts are fat. People used to be afraid of fats back in like the 70s, 80s. They thought fats made you fat. Well, that's absolutely not the case at all. Fats are actually incredibly important for hormone production and vitamin absorption as well. So especially as females, if we go on an extremely low fat diet, that's going to hinder the production of almost all your very, very important hormones: estrogen, thyroid hormone, progesterone, all these things that you want to be produced at higher levels. So this is kind of what happens often when people are on very low calorie or low fat diets. They start to have hormonal imbalances and issues there. So I have got my pistachios chopped up, and we're going to dribble these guys on. I just think the green looks pretty. That's why I chose pistachios. All right. So those are done. I'm going to stick these in the freezer while we start cooking dinner. Some people will stuff them with peanut butter prior to dipping them in chocolate and freeze them for 10 minutes, but I don't do that because we don't have time for that. So anyway, these are going in the freezer, and then let's start dinner. Okay. Get this out of the way. So I've got my pan here, and I'm going to get it on a medium heat to get us to start cooking. All right. And I think I told you guys in your recipe to use avocado or olive oil. I'm actually going to use sesame oil, which is really nice for Asian cooking. It has a nice flavor, but any of the above work. I always recommend using olive or avocado oil when you can. They are healthy fats or omega-3 rich fats. So there's a lot of noise out there around which oil you should use for cooking. And at the end of the day, my answer to those types of questions is you can have an oil that has basically vitamins in it. It's rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which are incredibly important for your heart health. Once again, hormone production, vitamin absorption, lowering cholesterol, blood pressure. Or you can have an oil that essentially does nothing for you and potentially lowers a lot of those factors. So always choose the olive or avocado if you can. So I'm just going to put about, I don't know, a tablespoon of this in my pan. let that start warming up. Now, the first things we're going to use are the onions, the green onions, and the garlic. Already chopped up my half onion that we're going to be using. Am I moving too fast for you guys? Do you need me to slow down a little? Yeah. Laura, are you still on the dates? Okay. I'll just explain this a little bit while you finish up there. Get this put away. Okay. So we're using a half onion here. I've got 3 green onions that I'm going to use, these guys. And I prefer to use these little frozen cubes of garlic and ginger. They're just so much easier. Yeah, Laura, you know what's up. I cannot stand chopping garlic. It is like my least favorite thing on earth. So I use these religiously. Essentially, all they are is pureed garlic and ginger with a little bit of oil. You could even make this yourself if you want to puree a bunch of garlic in your blender and stick it in an ice cube tray and freeze them and save them so that you can just throw them in a pan. Great time saving thing. I love it. It's awesome. So I did decide to use the coleslaw mix today for my egg roll in a bowl because it's easy. And that's what this is all about, is finding you guys an easy recipe. So I'm just using the bag of coleslaw mix because I didn't want to chop up cabbage, but you could also use fresh cabbage and carrots. I was this close to opting for the cabbage only because sometimes it's hard to find a cabbage mix at the grocery store that doesn't look like rotten, quite honestly. But I got this at Whole Foods and it actually looks good. It looks like it wasn't sitting on the shelf too long. So we went with the bag to save time and effort. This recipe can be made a variety of different ways. You can make it with ground beef, ground chicken, ground turkey, ground pork, which is what I decided to go with today just because I think it really pairs well with the Asian flavors. I do not discriminate against proteins. Use whatever you like. I'm just happy you're eating a protein, okay? Because protein is so key to building muscle mass and doesn't spike your blood sugar, and it's really filling and satiating. Like I said before, proteins and fats make you feel full and satisfied, whereas carbohydrates do not. So if you're having a meal that's all carbohydrates, expect to overeat is essentially what is going to happen. Okay, so I'm using that. And then this recipe does use some more unique ingredients with the rice vinegar and coconut aminos. The recipe says you can either use coconut aminos or soy sauce. I personally prefer the coconut aminos. They're a little bit sweeter, and they are better for my friends with high blood pressure, okay? These are essentially just literally made from coconut tree sap. So it's very clean ingredients, low sodium, and they are basically like a little bit sweeter soy sauce. I really enjoy the flavor of these personally. Okay, and unfortunately, I realized too late that I was out of sriracha, so I'm using a different hot sauce, but the recipe calls for sriracha to add in there. So that's a little explanation of all of our ingredients. How we doing? Are we ready to move on to the next step? All right. So go ahead and chop up your half onion. And you can really use any type of onion here. I just wouldn't use a red onion because that has a very different pungent flavor, but like yellow or sweet are both fine. And then we are going to cut these on a bias. So I'm going to show you what that means because we're not going to use all of the green onion right now. So first off, I'm going to chop off these stems. And then we're going to chop off the white portions because we're going to use these guys right now. These are about to get thrown right into the pan. And once you get to the green part, that's what we're going to save for later. So I'm going to take all that in my pan. And then these green ends, these are going to be for garnish when it's done. So I'm still going to chop those up kind of at a diagonal because it's pretty. All right. And that's kind of what they should be looking like, just these little rounds, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and add my onions into my pan. Get you a little bit closer. So that's my chopped onion. And then I'm also going to add the white parts of my chopped up green onion in here, all of it. And I really enjoy the flavor of this. I never used to know when I first started cooking that you could even use the white parts. But they're great and they add really nice flavor to this dish. We're going to get that going. And then we're also going to add our garlic in. So whether you're mincing it up or using my little garlic hack, it's totally up to you. I always say when it comes to garlic, measure with the heart. I like a lot of garlic, so I'm going to add a few of these cubes. I'm going to add like 4 cubes. All right, yeah, that looks pretty good. And garlic is so good for you. It's incredibly anti-inflammatory. So the more the merrier when it comes to garlic. It's great for you. We're going to get that going. It should start to smell really garlicky and delicious and fragrant. And we are going to cook this until the onions are translucent. So that's going to need a couple minutes. So if anyone's catching up, now's your time. There you go. Finally just figured out how to pin myself so that I take up more of the screen. All right. So this is just going to need a couple more minutes. Our next ingredients are going to be the meat, which, like I said, I have ground pork, as well as the hot sauce, the ginger, and I think we wait a minute to add the cabbage. Let me check. Yeah. So we're going to get the meat cooking before we add the coleslaw in. Oh, see how quick those kind of solidified? My little dates are already looking amazing. Yum. I also love this meal because it's very high volume, meaning we are adding a ton of cabbage and veggies in here with some good protein. So you can eat a high volume of food that makes you feel very full without it being a high amount of calories. So that's always really nice too. Something we want to aim to do. All right, I think mine is ready to add the meat. My onions are translucent. My garlic is fragrant. It's looking really good. So I'm going to go ahead and add my meat in. Get that all broken up. Oh, this is smelling amazing. Is there anyone else here that has made this recipe before? It's really just supposed to taste like kind of like the inside of an egg roll, without the shell on it. Although I might argue, I think it tastes even better because this is about to have some really good flavor between the garlic, the ginger, and all the spices that we're adding in. Okay. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and add a couple ginger cubes in here. This one I also say measure with your heart. Ginger is also incredibly anti-inflammatory. Great to be adding into your food, into your tea, wherever you like it, into your bone broth. I do add these into my bone broth when I make it from scratch. Get those mixed in. And I'm going to salt and pepper this a little bit to your liking. And we're also going to add the sriracha in. Do a little bit of this, a little bit of this. And like I said, I'm out of sriracha, so we're using peri peri. And if you don't like spice, which sriracha, it's not really necessarily there to make it spicy, just to give it a, I'd say, greater depth of flavor. But if you don't like spice, feel free to skip it. It's not a majorly important part of the recipe. So I'm just going to do a dash of that.
Kate, I've never used ground pork. Does it work the same as ground beef? Like
It
brown
does.
beef?
Yep. Yeah, it does. It works the same way. It just needs to be heated to a higher temperature just for food safety standards. So I want to say we want to get this at least over 165. I forget the exact number, but yeah, no, I wouldn't say necessarily browns up, but it's kind of like when you cook up ground chicken or ground turkey, it starts to get that, crumbled look. It's just nice to mix it up sometimes. That's a big complaint I hear from a lot of people is like, I'm so sick of chicken. I'm so sick of beef. What else can I make? Well, once in a while, this could be an opportunity to switch it up and do pork. I make a really amazing maple balsamic pork chop recipe. We'll have to save that one for another day. That one's really good too. Yeah, I am pro meats. Don't be afraid of red meat, especially females are chronically iron deficient. We need red meat more than anyone else, especially if we're iron deficient. That says our body isn't getting enough of what it needs. So don't be afraid of it. Am I saying eat a full steak 7 days a week? No, because that will likely cause you to have high cholesterol, especially if it's a very fatty steak, like a porterhouse steak or something like that, as opposed to maybe something leaner like a filet. But all good options. And we just want to make sure our meat is cooked through before we move on to the next step. So mine still needs a couple of minutes here. I usually just eat mine plain when this is done. Some people like to make a little sriracha mayo concoction to go on top, which is literally just mixing sriracha and mayo and drizzling it on top. But I really don't think it needs it, and it saves us calories not doing it that way. I'm not sure if any of you joined my goal setting webinar, but this past Friday was Quitter's Day. So by the third Friday in January, typically 88% of people have already given up on their New Year's resolutions, which is a crazy number. So if you're here and you still care about cooking and you're still working towards your goals, that's something to be proud of because it's not easy. Change is hard. Living a healthy lifestyle when convenience is all around us is hard. But I will say, living a healthy lifestyle continues to get easier. There's so many meal prep companies, meal services, even healthier frozen options or things that can be thrown together that are healthy now more than ever before. All right. I think mine is ready for the coleslaw. So here's how she's looking. Meat is cooked through, all crumbled up. It's still very fragrant from all of that garlic and ginger that I added in there. All right. So I'm just going to go all in with this bag. Add my coleslaw mix in there. Looks like a lot, but it's going to cook down quite a bit. Cabbage is another vegetable that's super versatile. I think it's delicious cooked like this. It's also really great, raw like this on top of maybe a fish taco with like a peach salsa or something like this. I also make a recipe pretty regularly called cabbage steaks, where you slice the cabbage, drizzle with olive oil, onion powder, garlic powder, roast it in the oven. Ugh, it's so good. The cabbage gets all caramelized and delicious. It is great. And I'm actually going to add, my coleslaw bag was only 12 ounces, so I'm going to add just a little more of this other bag so I have more. All right. You guys getting hungry yet? I am. I'm like, I can't wait to eat this. All right. And as that starts to cook down, I'm going to go ahead and add my coconut aminos and rice vinegar. It says to use 3 tablespoons of your coconut aminos or rice vinegar. I mean, you can use your taste buds as you wish here. I never measure anything. I'm probably going to add probably about 4-ish tablespoons there. And the rice vinegar gives it a nice tang, a nice zest to it. So don't skip it if you can. And I'm just going to do 1 tablespoon of the rice vinegar. Let's just give it a few sprinkles. That's good. It smells a little intense and scary, but it's not. It gives it a really nice tang. I love this recipe because it's super approachable. I mean, truly, if you have some younger kids, I feel like they could even cook it. Some teenagers or something, you come home from work and you want them to cook for you. This one can really be made by anyone of any cooking skill level, as long as they can follow directions. And mine's really done. You can cook it to your desired doneness. I like my cabbage pretty well cooked, which, as you can see, it is. Some people prefer it a little bit more crunchy still. I don't. So that's done. And I'm going to go ahead and plate this up just so we can see what it looks like.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it.
I had rice vinegar, but I don't. So would you recommend I substitute apple cider or red wine or straight up white?
I think I would do just like 1 tablespoon of the apple cider vinegar, I think would be the closest. Okay. Definitely don't add too much because it's definitely a distinct flavor difference. Definitely wouldn't do the red wine. And I'm just grabbing some sesame seeds out of my drawer here. I didn't put these on the recipe list, but they're pretty, or did I? I don't think I did. They're a nice garnish though, this type of dish. So here is what we got. I've got my delicious egg roll in a bowl. I'm going to garnish with these green onions that we had aside, the ends. And then I'm also, just because I can, and I have it, going to add the sesame seeds. These add a tiny bit of crunch, so they're nice. And that is egg roll in a bowl. Is anyone's ready? Have you tried it yet?
I love it. I'm very impressed. It was much easier than I would have thought.
Yay! I love to hear that. Yes, it's easy, it's simple, and you know what else? This stores very well in the refrigerator. So typically when I make this, I'll use a big pan, I'll double it and keep it for meal prep. So obviously I have quite a bit left over here. So this is going to be my lunch for the next 2 days. So we love that. It's something that tastes good reheated, which I think is the struggle a lot of people have with meal prep is some things don't taste good after like 24 hours. They get soggy, the texture is off. So it's nice to find recipes that still taste good the longer they sit. And while we're on that note, I'm going to get my dates out. And I did realize I forgot one step earlier. I forgot to add my sea salt on top. So we got to do that. Has anyone tried their dates yet? Not yet. We're all waiting for dessert. You guys are so well behaved. Get this open. This is the Maldon Flaky Sea Salt. This is great. We love it. Yay, I love to hear that. Maldon Flaky Sea Salt. It's just fancy chunky sea salt, but it's really pretty for baking. It's not saying on very well since these aren't wet anymore, but it adds a nice touch. A nice salty to go with the sweet. So those are the dates. And that is the recipe, everyone. Does anyone have any questions for me? Welcome. I'm proud of us. We ended 15 minutes early. So that just goes to show how quick and easy this meal is. And that's with me yapping this whole time. So you could really finish this in 20 minutes. And then you got dinner for the family. And it's healthy and it's delicious, more importantly. So thank you, everyone, for joining tonight. I hope you enjoyed this. My first time doing this for you guys. So just figuring out what everyone likes. So Teenage Son gave it a grunt and a thumbs up. I love it. I'll take it. That's a win.
Thank you. It's wonderful.
Thank you
Great.
so much.
Thank
You
you.
guys for keeping up. Well, awesome. Thanks for joining, everyone. I hope you enjoy your dinners and have an amazing evening.